Hi, and welcome to our second live chat in the afternoons. And this one is our first one for year 3 and year 4 aged children. And it's for the parents of lower key stage 2. But you can have a go at any of the activities and experiments that I mentioned, just adapting it for the age of your child. So, in our last live, we spoke about science experiments and plants. In today's live, we're going to carry on talking about science experiments and plants and thinking about an experiment that will be suitable for your child if they are aged 7 to 9. So, we will be looking at an experiment that includes celery. So, it might be useful if you've got some celery, some cups, and some water and food colouring in, but no worries if you don't. There's lots of things that you can take from this live. So, with our last live, we looked at seeds and bulbs and all things to do with how plants grow. Today, we're going to look at transpiration, which is the water moving through a plant. And we're going to look at how water moves through celery and how you can investigate this with your child. So, to begin with, if I was investigating with my child, I would think about the instructions that will be used. So, maybe writing instructions or using the instructions from our booklet, and thinking about those instructional verbs, which are pour, place, leave, and see if they can use that vocabulary while they are investigating. And then what I would do is I would present the equipment to my child. So you can present the celery, the water, and the cups. So you could have cups which are the same to make it a fair test. And you can talk about a fair test to your child too. So you could say, what does it mean when we have a fair test? And they might be able to tell you that a fair test is when you're trying to make something as fair as possible when you're investigating. So if your child were to have 400 millilitres of water in one cup and 100 millilitres of water in the other cup, that wouldn't really be a fair test because it isn't the same amount of water. And they might be able to tell you and discuss their predictions with you. So you could ask them what they predict is going to happen when you place the celery into the cup and pour the water and the food colouring in. So I've got a demonstration which I can show you, which I'll just add on now. So in this demonstration, we have got 3 cups and I pour the same amount of water into each cup. I've made sure that it's about 100 millilitres, and you could talk to your child about it being 100 millilitres, and you could say how it is equal. You could use the increment lines on the jugs to then work out if you've put the right amount in. So you could say, yes, the jug was on 500 millilitres, it's gone down to 400, that's how I know. Then I'm pouring 1 cup of red food colouring and 1 cup of blue food colouring, and leaving 1 with no food colouring in. You could discuss with your child what is happening here. You could discuss what will happen when I put the celery in. Will I be able to see the water travelling through the celery in the cup that doesn't have any food colouring in? And then when you're putting your celery in with your child, you could also discuss how about leaving the leaves on, or maybe doing some without the leaves on, because it's the leaves that will make this process happen. So I had a go at this on quite a hot day last week, and so I found this worked really well because it was hot. So when it had happened, I'd left it a few days and I observed it. With your child, you could then observe what is happening to the celery. You could see if the food colouring has moved up the shoot. You could see if the water has gone all the way to the top, if it's only gone up a little bit. And if it hasn't, if the process that your child thinks is going to happen hasn't happened, you could discuss that and think about, and then explain why, and think about why that might have happened as instructions. And then predicting and then talking about the investigation are all essential tools for learning, and it will show you what your child has picked up from the experiment. So while you're waiting for the celery to work its magic and the water to move up the shoots, there are other activities that you could do that are plant related. So for example, I have had a go at some flower origami. Now this is a flower, so it's a plant, but it's using my craft skills. So you could bring in other skills that your child has and will learn about to learn about plants. So for this, you could maybe start doing the flower origami with your child and then ask them for those instructional verbs to make it and get them to tell you how to make this origami and see if they can remember the instructional verbs like pour and place from the last experiment and give you some that is suitable for this one, like fold or leave. I have stuck mine onto a pencil because I didn't have a lollipop stick. If you have a lollipop stick, you could also do that. And then you could place this next to your celery and create a nice little plant display while you're waiting for your celery to complete the experiment. There are also other activities which we've got a 7 to 9 plants booklet, which is full of lots of different activities for you and your child to do. And within this, there is things like the craft activity that I've mentioned, the celery activity, and other activities like word searches, code breakers to bring in more of their plant vocabulary and also mathematical skills, and seeing the links between investigating and problem solving. So when you've left your celery, you might like to leave it a few days. I left mine a few days on a hot day, and I noticed that the plant that had the celery that had the clear water, the celery had gone really tiny, and all of the water in the cup had gone because it had gone into the celery, and the celery had had all of the water. However, I won't be able to see that because there was no food colouring in. So then I had a little look at the ones with food colouring in, and I can just add that in to show you when I cut into it. And I've also got some here to show you. You can see all in the roots here, the food colouring has gone through and the water has travelled through the celery. So I'll just show you what I recorded earlier where I was cutting up the celery. And you can see where the water had gone through that transpiration process. And this is where you could talk to your child about the process. How much of it do I need to cut up? How come it hasn't gone all the way up to the leaves? Can you see there? You can talk about the lines. Are they straight? Why are they a bit wonky? Because that is the celery and the natural way that the water has gone through the celery. And you can talk about and discuss this process with your child. So I hope you have found today's live useful, where we have explored all things about celery and you've got some ideas of how to investigate plants with your child. Remember to pop back next week. We've got some lives with Amy in the morning at 9:30 for EYFS age children. And then on Friday, we have our final plants live with me at 4:30. So I hope you enjoyed today's live. Any questions, remember, pop them in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you soon.